technical difficulties there for about a second or two. But look, yep, it's going live on my mixer. Fuck yeah, let's go. Hey, we Gucci then. All right, so here we is. Oh, let me mute myself so we don't get no looping action here. All right, yeah, this will be Carlyle Fight Club number 30. Number fucking 30. Even though 30 isn't really a huge number, it's still a lot. It's still a lot of numbers. 30 hours of talking about just straight fights, pretty much. Um, just a little ridiculous, kind of hard to believe, but at the same time, fucking awesome. For this episode, for episode number 30 of the Carlyle Fight Club, I'll primarily and mainly, and those are the same words, but I'll be talking about UFC Fight Night between Tyron Woodley and Gilbert Burns. And if you're watching on the video, or if you're listening to audio later on, I will be showing. I'm sharing my screen here just with the fights and their little statistics and all that stuff. If you kind of want to follow along and maybe get a glimpse and just see what I'm looking at, I guess. That being said, like I said, UFC Fight Night, Tyron Woodley versus Gilbert Burns. This is May 30th, 2020, which is this Saturday. The event is taking place at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, the UFC Apex is a new building for the UFC. I mean, new in quotation marks. It's probably been there for about a year now. But it's where they've been doing their Contender Series fights, and where I guess they'll also be hosting and filming the Ultimate Fighter fights when they come back, or whenever that is. They could be filming it right now. We have no idea. But yeah, that's where they'll be taking these fights will be taking place. So it'll be kind of cool to see. You know, there won't be really a crowd except for like Dana and like his friends and maybe his select fans that want to come by. So it'll still be a smaller venue, but it won't be an empty arena like it has been before, which is kind of weird. I think this will be better for all parties involved, just because they've done fights here and like this hundreds of times where it's been small venues instead of fucking large arenas and nobody's there. You know, it's a small confined space and nobody's there. Nonetheless, it will still be an exciting night of fights. The main card, I guess the main card will be main card and prelims will be on ESPN and ESPN Plus for the entirety of the card. Prelims start at 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern. Main card will be at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern then. And for this little, I almost said Flight Club. This ain't Flight Club. This is Fight Club. For this little Carlyle Fight Club action, I'm going to start with the main event between Woodley and Burns and work my way down just because, I know a lot of the names in these cards, but, as we get towards like the bottom, even I don't know some of these guys, and I had to look them up and actually do, some type of research on them. So I'm just going to hit off, the top ones first and go through the bottom ones if you don't give a fuck about the guys that are barely making money to get by and fighting people in a cage, which I think you should support them even more, but it is what it is. With that being said, Woodley. Hey, Darius, you got Woodley, I'm guessing. It's going to be a good fight no matter... For this episode, I was going to try to... oops. I was going to try to put the mixer chat into my sharing, but it's already too late for that. That's a whole nother thing I'll have to figure out myself, but whatever. Yeah, this first fight between Tyron Woodley and Gilbert Burns, main event, obviously. Tyron Woodley, 19-4-1, coming off his loss against Kamaru Usman in the title fight, hasn't fought since. Honestly, the worst I think we've ever seen Woodley look. It's not even that he looked. I mean, he looked pretty bad, but like, I think Usman's pressure and just his game plan just threw Woodley off so much that Woodley couldn't pull the trigger. And he talked about this on Joe Rogan's podcast after the fight. He said that wasn't him in there. He just couldn't pull the trigger. He couldn't. He didn't know why, but like he saw things happening and like he saw openings to take a punch, and he was like, "Oh, there it is." But then like his mind was telling him to do it, but his body wasn't doing it. He was kind of like stuck in his own way, stuck in his own shoes. Um, so I think it'll be very, very interesting to see how he comes out after that performance. He's probably been, you know, going to bed every night thinking about it. I know he has a bunch of other ventures. He has his little rap career and little other sponsors and shit he's been talking or been working on. But that was all while he was the champ, and now he's not the champ. He's not the man. He's not the man. Um, I'm curious to see how his psyche is doing. And, I mean, he's a champion. He's a former champ, so I mean, I'm sure his mind's a steel trap. But at the end of the day, still got to go in there and fight another human being who is also trained to kick your ass. Let's see. Yeah, before he beat Usman or lost to Usman, he beat Till, Maya, and Wonderboy twice. I mean, guy's legit. But the guy he's facing, Gilbert Durinho Burns, is fucking legit as well. Definitely not as known as Woodley, but if you are an M&A, M&A? What is an M&A? If you're an MMA or UFC or fight fan or even just a jiu-jitsu fan, you know who the fuck Gilbert Durinho Burns is. And Durinho, that's his nickname, means little tough guy, who translated from Portuguese to English. A rough translation, obviously. Um, Burns is 33 years old, trains out of Hard Knocks 365 out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And he's currently on a five fight win streak versus Damian Maia. He fought last. He knocked Damian Maia out, I believe, was the second round, if I remember correctly. Fight before that, he beat Gunnar Nelson, who's a beast, on the feet and on the ground. I think he out jiu-jitsu and might have submitted Gunnar Nelson, which is impressive because Gunnar Nelson's black belt, one of the top grappling artists in MMA, but Gilbert Burns is another level. Gilbert Burns is top of the heap, good competition-wise jiu-jitsu, like just straight jiu-jitsu, no striking, no punching, no striking, just straight jiu-jitsu. He's one of the best in the world right now. And I think he was in Quintet. He competed in that with the UFC team. He looked really solid. He was like their anchor, their best man in that little event, where they had the little UFC versus Strike Force versus Pride and fuck. There's another organization in there. I'm forgetting. Oh, and WEC. Um, yeah, Burn Jiu-Jitsu is just it's top level. In MMA, he's above like any guy that's top Jiu-Jitsu in MMA. He's above them, if that even makes sense. Um, and his striking is much well improved. He's a very solid striker. I don't know if he's as good as Woodley. His boxing might be a little more fluid. Woodley's kind of stiff, but Woodley's so fucking powerful. This is just a good matchup all around. Woodley's wrestling. He's got a very strong wrestling base. I don't think he's going to shoot on Gilbert, though, because he doesn't want to fuck with his jiu-jitsu. But at the same time, Gilbert might not want to fuck with Woodley because of his wrestling. But at the same time, a wrestler doesn't spend as much time on their back as a guy that knows jiu-jitsu. So Burns might be okay with, trying to shoot. I don't know, though. Trying to fucking take down a fucking wrestler is going to be tough. Um, so I don't know. I would love to see it go to the ground, but I don't think it will. I think Woodley will probably look to keep this on his feet. Kind of how he fought Damian Maia. I'm about to sneeze here, so let me go on mute real quick. Woodley might try to fight Gilbert Burns away, same way he fought Maia. Just very calm, collected, keep his distance. Just stay away from Maia. Anytime Maia tries to clinch or grapple or go for takedown, stuff it, get away. and just hit him with long punches. But I don't know if that's gonna work for Burns. Burns is, like I said, has very good stand up. He likes to come forward. He's very aggressive in his technique. Um, and like I said, one of the best on the ground, and his top jiu-jitsu is excellent as well. So I don't know. I honestly don't know. I kind of have to lean towards Woodley here just because he's a more accomplished guy at this point. But Burns is on a fucking streak, and he's legit, man. I could see him. Before he had a ranking, I'm like, dude, this guy needs to be the top 15. He's not ranked number six. Willie's number one contender there at 170 welterweight division. Um, so yeah, I honestly don't know who's going to win. And I would not put money on this fight. But if you want to go with the underdog, go with Burns. But if you like Woodley, go with Woodley. As far as odds, and I'm getting the odds off of ESPN's website. Here, if you're watching the video, you can see the odds are right here. Woodley's minus 185, Burns is plus 165. So pretty close line there. I think a little too close for me to put some action on Burns to be, pretty comfortable with losing. Something. Given that if he does win, it's a nice potential return. So I don't know. That's going to be a fucking great of a fight. Definitely can't wait for that one. Then we go to the co-main. Between Blagoy Ivanoff and Augusto Sakai. Two pretty solid heavyweight contenders here, both ranked in the top 15. Blagoy, who's 18-3, is number 12. And Augusto is 14-1-1. He's number 13 there in the heavyweight division. As far as odds, Ivanoff is minus 105. Sakai is minus 115. And initially, when I saw these odds, I was very, very surprised. Blagoy Ivanoff was not a higher favorite than he is. I remember Sakai being legit and having some pretty good striking power, but I think, and still kind of think, Blagoy's wrestling is just so dominant, especially in the heavyweight division, that honestly didn't see this being a close fight. But as I went through, did my little research or what have you, I'm starting to take that back. Even though I still do like Blagoy, his nickname's Ibaga. He's 33 years old. He fights out of AKA. He lost his last fight versus Derek Lewis by split decision. A lot of people thought he won that fight. Honestly, I thought he won that fight, but glad he didn't because I had money on Derek Lewis that fight. And who doesn't love the Black Beast, Derek Lewis, one of the best guys to follow on Instagram. But before that loss, he beat Tai Tuivasa and Ben Rothwell. He destroyed Tuivasa, just wrestled him to death. Rothwell was a close fight, but I think he won that fight. Had some pretty good striking and also implemented his wrestling really well. As far as Augusto Sakai, as I said, 14-1-1. He's 29 years old. He's had, out of his 14 wins, he's had 11 TKO or knockout finishes. So he's a fucking knockout artist. Likes to finish on his feet or with strikes or what have you. He's currently on a 5-fight win streak versus Marcin Tybura. Andre fucking Arlovsky still doing the damn fucking thing, and he's still doing the damn thing. Dude just fought a couple weeks ago. And then also beat Chase Sherman, who fought a couple weeks ago. Sakai was on Dana White's Contender Series Brazil. So if you want to check him out there, go ahead. I don't know. Sakai will have a 4-inch height advantage as well as a 4-inch reach advantage. Southpaw versus Orthodox, so that kind of strikes out the reach advantage there because they're both going to have their front foots closest to each other. If it stays on the feet, I like Sakai, but Blagoy's got some nice ways to slither inside, and you can't really slither or sneak your way inside at 260 pounds and under 6 feet. But but he has some good techniques to get inside. Maybe get that body clench and give him the ground. Um, Also some decent dirty boxing. And if I remember correctly, I believe he was on the Indian national wrestling team and like competed in the Olympics. Now I don't know how good the Indian, national wrestling scene is, but either way, going to the Olympics is legit. And he was legit wrestling. And although we all love to see knockouts, we all love to see somebody get punched or kicked in the face and drop unconscious and then get the back of their head hitting the fucking ring and even having a further concussion. I hate actually saying that, but it still gets me to jump out of my seat. Um, I think wrestling and just grappling in general is the superior martial art. If if you can get your hands on the guy, because if you can get your hands on the guy, you can dictate where the fight is going to go, even if you want it standing. If you want the fight standing, you can keep it standing. If you want to go to the ground and grapple and ground and pound, you can take it to the ground. So just based on that, I have to go with Blagoy. As I said, I was surprised that he's not a bigger favorite. So with that in mind, I might place some decent money on him, uh, given that his odds have gone a little more towards even. And actually, I'm an idiot. He's not the favorite. He's a fucking underdog. So shit. Hopefully that keeps on rising and he gets into plus money there. So I'm placing the house on him. And I don't advise you do, because if you lose all your money and you end up homeless because of a bet I made, that's on you, not me. Okay? I've never even stepped into a cage. So what the fuck do I know? But with that being said, let's talk about the next fight that is happening in a cage. Um, this fight's a little surprising to see here. Third last fight of the night. But they always kind of seem to stick like a weird one in. Between like the kickoff of the main event and the co-main and main, they kind of seem to always stick one. Like usually there's about five fights on the main card. The opener card is pretty exciting. Supposed to get kid or people excited to watch and get them excited for the main event, especially for pay-per-views. And then the next one's pretty good, but then they always stick like a weird one at the third fight before the co-main and main. I'm not saying this is gonna be a bad fight. It's just, I mean, I don't know who fucking Billy Carantino is. Quarantillo, Teal. But I do know who Spike the Alpha Ginger Carlyle is just because of his fucking nickname. I remember his nickname. My friend's a ginger, and I texted him, "Hey, Alpha Ginger's fired. You gotta watch him." And he won. And I told my friend that he's not the Alpha Ginger. That he needs, that he's basically the Beta Ginger from now on. But anyways, Billy. Does he have a nickname? Nope. Billy Quarantino fights out of Gracie, Tampa South there. I'm assuming in Tampa, Florida. 31 years old. He's currently on a 6-fight win streak, 1-0 in the UFC. So he won his debut. And he was on Dana White's Contender Series Season 3, Week 5. So if you want to go back and check those out, all the Contender Series fights are pretty fun. I liked watching them when they came on, especially when they're, live on a Tuesday. You know, Tuesdays always seem like the worst day of the week to me. Mondays suck, because it's back to work, back to the work week, blah, 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 back to the bullshit. But then Tuesday, it's like, damn, I got to go back to the bullshit again. And damn, it's not even Hump Wednesday. There's no Thirsty Thursday. It's not Friday yet. You could be like, oh, Tequila Tuesday, but I'm not an alcoholic and I don't like tequila. So it was nice having fights on Tuesdays. But I don't know where I was going with that. But Billy Quarantillo is fighting Spike the Alpha Ginger Carlyle, which might be the best nickname besides Violent Bob Ross in the UFC. He's 27 years old, fighting at a training lab. He's not also on a he's on a 5-fight win streak. He is also 1-0 in the UFC, winning his debut by knockout fashion. If I remember correctly, it was like 40 seconds, maybe a minute. And trying to process through my brain. It might have been in the second round with like a minute in, but he just came out and destroyed, uh, whoever he fought. Um, and either way, this will be an exciting fight. This is a catchweight fight. They don't have listed here exactly the weight that they're fighting at. Originally, both these guys are 145ers, so I would assume maybe either fighting at 55 or 50. Um, I guess 50 or 60, maybe even 65. Because if they were fighting, at a catch weight of 155, they would just call it a lightweight bout and sanction it as a lightweight bout. But because it's called a catch weight, um, it's probably not a sanctioned division weight limit or what have you. Uh, Wouldn't be surprised if it's 160, honestly. Um, but even though that's a weird fight to stick in there, kind of in the middle of the main card, I think it will still be exciting. Just, I've never seen this Billy guy fight, Billy Quarantino, but just watching Alpha Change Spike Carlyle, um, if he comes out like he did in his UFC debut, this will be an exciting fucking fight to watch. Um, Billy will have a 2-inch height advantage, but Spike will have a 1-inch reach. You switch orthodox. Both guys land a lot. Yeah, it's going to be an exciting fight. Going to be an exciting fight. Difference might be the ground game. You see Bill Quarantino here. His takedown average is 0.8, so maybe not. Yeah, never mind. I don't know. I've never seen Billy fight. I've never seen Spike on the ground, so I don't know. After that fight, or I guess before in real time, this is a lightweight matchup, 155, between Roosevelt the Predator Roberts. And if you look at him here, I'll just zoom in a little bit. He cut his dreads, but back when he had his dreads, the Predator was a perfect nickname for him. He looked just like the Predator. Like Alien vs. Predator, those movies and shit, Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger. But Roosevelt the Predator is 9-1. He's facing Brock Chakta Tuska Weaver, and that nickname there just means Chaka Warrior, which I believe is like his tribe. He's a Native American, from what's the word? I guess Indian reservation or native lands. So he's fighting for all his people there. Choctaw Warrior. This will be an exciting fight. This will be an exciting fight, definitely. Roosevelt the Predator Roberts, 26 years old. He was on Dana White's Contender Series, Season 2, Week 7. If you want to go check that out. He is 3-1 in the UFC so far, so doing pretty good. Since he's earned that contract from the Contender Series. As far as Brock Weaver, this guy is one of the most exciting guys to watch. In my opinion, he's got a great story behind him being, a Native American, growing up on an Indian reservation, super poor, and, with alcoholism and crime and, just poverty surrounding him fighting surrounding him since, the day he was born. He's 28 years old. He's currently on an 8-fight win streak. He was on Dana White's Contender Series, Season 3, Week 8. I definitely highly recommend to go watch that fight. Like I said, one of the most exciting guys that I've never, initially never heard of, and then watch this guy fight and hearing his story leading up to, like, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. That's crazy. I'm getting goosebumps. But just like the promotion they had just for him on the Contender Series was super hype, and then he went out there and destroyed the guy. This guy's a potential star in the making if he can fucking take care of business in the cage. Like I said, Dana White Contender Series, Season 3, Week 8. He won his UFC debut, but he won it by disqualification. His opponent landed an illegal knee on him. I can't remember exactly why they stopped it. I think they stopped it because Brock couldn't see out of one of his eyes or something like that. He ended up getting the W because he couldn't continue. He didn't like the win. He said he never wants to win that way. He's very humble and, warrior-like in his, post-fight press conferences or what have you, or post-fight questions. As far as odds, Roosevelt, the Predator Roberts, is a minus 320 favorite. Brock Weaver sitting at plus 260. I don't like those odds for Roberts. Honestly, I like, both. They have very different fighting styles. And as I kind of compare in my head, I like Weaver's better. I think Roberts is the more technical striker, and this might be a straight up technical uh, strike. Maybe not a technical, but it will be a straight up striking match for the most part, I believe. Uh, Roberts the most technical, more technical striker. He's kind of long and lengthy, and athletic on his feet. Likes to keep his distance, with those lanky strikes, lanky appendages. So I think he'll try to keep Brock on the outside, use his jab a lot, a lot of 1-2s, maybe some kicks, leg kicks, things like that. But I don't know if that's going to keep Brock Weaver at bay. He's a brawler. That guy comes in there, he he's not one of these guys to say, "Oh, I'm ready to die on my shield" there, and kind of just says it. This guy fucking means it, and you can see it, especially now. It's not like he has hundreds of thousands of dollars in his bank account, and like, he's become soft now that he's in the UFC. No, he's had one UFC fight. You don't get paid shit until you're like a star, and even then, it's still only like McGregor's making big money. Pretty much no one else in there is making, you know, more than $5 million a fight, except for Habib as well, or John Jones. Besides those three guys, no one's making lots of money. Back when GSP was in his prime, he made 4 million total from his UFC contracts. So that should just tell you he's one of the greatest ever. But that was also when the UFC wasn't as big as it is now. But at the end of the day, all I'm saying is Brock Weaver's a savage, especially with no money in his bank account. That just makes you more savage. It just is. That's just how it is. Some guys can keep the savagery going with millions of dollars. Look at Floyd Mayweather. He's not. He's more of an art sport, but you're still punching guys in the face. You got to be somewhat of a savage to professionally punch guys in the face and take it back as well. So I don't know. I like Brock Weaver in this fight. And it's more for intangible reasons than anything technical. That's why these fights are so hard to predict or judge or any of that. It's so you never know. You never know a guy's mental state or what's going on in his life or how motivated or unmotivated they are to get in there and to beat the shit out of another human being. Um, but I don't know. There's a fire inside Weaver that you can just tell by looking in his eyes that he's not going to be stopped. Even if you flatline him, he's going to get back up and still try to beat your ass. um, so we'll see. It's a good fight. Roosevelt will have a 2-inch height advantage. Reach is same. Orthodox and southpaw. That doesn't bode well for Robertson. Yeah, I like Weaver here. I'm probably going to place a bet on him there, especially with plus 260. Might just place a $10 bet and end up winning, $26 from that. That'd be nice. So yeah, definitely look forward to that fight. Closing out the main card will be between Mackenzie Dern versus Hannah Shockwave Cyphers. This is just a bad matchup in my opinion by the UFC. They're just trying to promote the shit out of Mackenzie Dern and get her name out there. In my opinion, not putting anything against Hannah Cyphers. She's a tough son of a bitch, tough as they come. And you'll see in this fight how tough she fucking is. But I just don't like the matchup personally. Mackenzie Dern, black belt in jiu-jitsu, might be one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in the women's MMA period, but especially in the strawweight division at 115. She trains at a Black House MMA, 27 years old, but she did lose her last fight versus Amanda Hebus, who just pieced her up on the feet, and just stuffed her terrible jiu-jitsu takedowns. As far as Hannah Shockwave Cyphers, she is also 27 years old. She's 2-2 in the UFC. Lost her last versus Angela Hill. But as I said, she's a tough son of a bitch. She still looked good in that fight. And she'll definitely give Mackenzie Dern some problems on the feet. As Dern is coming in, I would assume though Dern has improved her stand-up game since the last time she fought. So we should see an improvement from that. And then we'll see how Cypher's takedown defense holds up and if Dern can get her down. I think Dern will eventually get her down and probably submit her. Probably round 2, I'm thinking. Um, but if not, it could be a long fight for her if she hasn't improved her stand-up skills. As far as measurables, Dern will have a 3-inch height advantage, 1-inch reach advantage. Both are orthodox. Dern usually a lot comes on the on the heavy side of 115. Has missed weight a lot. I think she had a baby recently, and she has some humongous titties. So that's always hard to make weight. So we'll see if she does it has a smart weight cut, and if it goes well, and if she doesn't drain herself enough. If she ends up being overweight, or doesn't make the weight limit, or she does make it, but it was a terrible cut. She could. If Cyphers can last pass around, or continually stuff those takedowns, her fucking gas tank might empty. And Cypher's gas tank isn't going to empty. Her will not be stopped. You have to finish her. You have to either finish her or outpoint her to beat her. And good luck outpointing her, because she's going to keep coming forward like a fucking zombie. I'm a huge fan of Hannah Cypher. I'm a huge fan of both these girls, but a huge fan of Hannah Cyphers just because of the way she fights. And because she's like the quietest person ever to be a fucking fighter. If you ever see, I've seen like her twice get interviewed in the octagon by Joe Rogan, and she's so quiet. Like even with a microphone, you can't hear her. And it's pretty awkward, but also kind of cute at the same time. So we'll see. Mackenzie Dern is a minus 400 favorite. Cypher's sitting at plus 320. Unless you really think Cyphers can like outpoint her or stick this on the feet, it might be a good bet. But even at plus 320, I'm not seeing too much value there. Yeah, I just don't. I don't know. It's just gonna be a tough fight for her. Just bad matchup, in my opinion. It is what it is. It's the way of the game. That closes out the main card. So we're getting the prelims here, and there's actually some pretty decent prelims, surprisingly, considering this is a fight night. It's not a pay-per-view, and like the main card wasn't really stacked with names. Main card, Woodley Burns, obviously. I know Blagoy and Augusto. Most people don't. I know Alpha Ginger, but nobody knows who the fuck that is. And then you got Brock Weaver, big story. Mackenzie Dern, they're definitely trying to push the fuck out of. So we got a lot of young people that I guess they're trying to push. But with that saying, the prelims are pretty good as well. I mean, the feature prelims between Caitlin Chukagian and Antonio Shevchenko. Chukagian last fought Antonio's sister, actually, Valentina Shevchenko, for the championship belt at 125 in the women's flyweight division. She ended up losing. How'd she lose? She get knocked down like third or fourth round. I don't remember exactly how. But Antonio Shevchenko is Valentina's sister, I believe older sister. She's 35 years old. Yeah, her nickname's La Pantera, which means panther. So Antonio La Pantera Shevchenko. She trains at a Tiger Muay Thai alongside with her sister there in Thailand. She was on Dana White's Contender Series Season 2, Week 3. And since then, she has been 2-1 in the UFC with her only loss versus Roxanne Modafferi, where Roxanne just basically took her down, controlled her for all 3 rounds, beat her up. So we'll see if Antonia Shevchenko's ground game has improved, because she may need it for this match versus Chukagian. Chukagian's, as I said, last fought Antonina. Antonina. Last fought Antonina's sister, Valentina, for the belt at 125. Her nickname's Blonde Fighter. She's 31 years old and trains out of Henzo Gracie Jiu-Jitsu up there in New York. I think she's a black belt. I'm pretty sure she's a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu. So she's got pretty solid Jiu-Jitsu. She doesn't use it too much, but she has a couple submission wins in the octagon. Might be a good strategy to try to get Antonina. Why is that name fucking with me? Because it looks so much like Antonio, but obviously it's not Antonio. She's a fucking chick. even though at first, originally I did not like this fight because Tonina hasn't really proved herself. She is 2-1, and she is Shevchenko's sister, and the 125 division is new, so not it has not really filled in all the rankings and stuff. But they got her already up there at number 12, but she's fighting legit, top tier contender at number 2. So I mean, it'll definitely be a good chest for Shevchenko, but I don't know. I originally did not like it. But nonetheless, Shevchenko is actually a minus 135 favorite. Currently, whereas Chukagian is plus 115. Thinking Vegas odd makers are just thinking, oh, Shevchenko, she knows how to beat Chukagian because her sister did it. Yeah, you think, but that's not how it works. They're two very different fighters. Very, very different fighters. Say Valentina is more well-rounded, whereas Antonina is kind of just striking base and likes to keep fighters on the outside. And Chukagian does as well. But I think Chukagian is just more well-rounded and probably get it done. But if I'm wrong and Antonina gets the nod and even a finish, man, that fucking vaults her right to the top 10, top 5, maybe. Who knows? Maybe she'll fight her sister for the title one day. That'd be crazy. Doubt she'll accept the fight, but it'd be crazy nonetheless. So we'll see how that goes. Excuse me, that's disgusting. Next fight got between Daniel D. Rodriguez versus Gabriel Gifted Green. I have no idea who either of these guys are. Never heard of them. But Daniel D. Rodriguez is 11-1 overall. He's 33 years old, trains out of Tap Out, LA. He's currently on a 7-fight win streak. He was on Dana White's Contender Series Season 3, Week 6. And he's undefeated in the UFC. Won his UFC debut. I mean, he's 1-0. So, I mean, shouldn't have said undefeated. I should have said he won his debut. And now he's on his second fight. But won his debut actually over Tim Means. Submitted Tim Means. So that's fucking legit. You submit Tim Dirty Bird Means in your UFC debut. That's pretty legit as it comes. As far as Gabriel Gifted Green, he's 27 years old, and he is on a 6-fight win streak, and he also won his UFC debut. Not versus anybody I knew or heard of, but he won nonetheless. Don't even know what he looks like. They don't have a picture up of him. I don't even care what he looks like. This will be at 170. D-Rod has got a 3-inch height advantage, but only a 1.5 reach. Got southpaw versus switch stance. They don't have any other stats about Gabriel. As far as odds, they got Daniel D-Rod Rodriguez plus 185 and Gabriel Gifted Green at minus 220. So odds makers are telling us something there that they like the gifted. That's all I can say because I don't know anything about either of those guys. Next fight is a light heavyweight matchup, 205-pounders between Jamal Hill, who's undefeated at 7-0, versus Klidson Abreu, 15-4. Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill is 29 years old. He did fight in Dana White's Contender Series, Season 3, Week 5. He won his UFC debut versus Darko Stosic. Is now looking to make a winning streak in the UFC. As far as Klidson White Bear Abreu, he's 27 years old. He's 1-2 in the UFC, with his only win coming over Sam Alvey. His 2 losses were versus guys that weren't, as name recognizable as Sam Alvey, so I didn't write them down, and because of their losses. But they were still pretty tough guys. As far as how this fight will play out, I don't really know. I've seen Jamal Hill fight. I saw him fight on the Contender Series. Kind of remember him. I kind of liked him. But I don't know enough about Klidson, White Bear, Abreu to actually give, an analysis, if that's what I'm actually doing here. I'm not even really actually analyzing any of these fights. So I don't know. Jamal will have 4-inch reach advantage, 4-inch height advantage, 5-inch reach advantage. He's southpaw versus orthodox. Hmm. I don't know. I might have to go with Jamal here just because he looks more athletic. And the only reason he looks more athletic is because he's black. So that's probably a little racist by me, but it's good race some guys. Hills minus 130 favorite. Klitson's plus 110. So close odds there. So I'm not betting on that either way. Um, as I said before, the prelims are actually kind of loaded. You got Tim Elliott in the prelims. He's been kind of in a skid recently, but he's still Tim Elliott, still kind of a big name. I still like watching him. I still like watching his unorthodox fighting style, even if he does lose. I would still like to see him in the UFC, even if he does lose. But we'll see. Tim Elliott is 33 years old now. He fights out of Glory MMA Fitness. He's on a two-fight losing streak, and he's actually 2-3 since his title fight with Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. I think that was back in like 2016. So he hasn't been doing, so good recently. He's actually lost to some guys I think he should have beat, at least on paper. I think he's also been fed some tough matchups as well. But the guy was a former challenge contender, former top 5 guy, so there's no reason not to, challenge him. Currently, he's ranked number 11, and this will be a flyweight fight, so 125. Elliott's 16, 10, and 1 overall, and he's fighting Brandon Royval. Brandon Royval is 10-4 overall, obviously not ranked, obviously, like y'all would know. Brandon Raw Dog Royval, that's his nickname. 27 years old, fights out of Factory X Muay Thai, I believe in Denver, Colorado. Or is that in Dallas? Fuck, I can't remember. I should probably know that, huh? Factory X Muay Thai? Inglewood. Inglewood, Colorado. Okay. So I got the state right, just not the city. But Raw Dog, Brandon Raw Dog Royval, 27 years old, fighting out of Factory X Muay Thai, former LFA champ. So former, lower organizational champ. Um, he's making his UFC debut versus Tim Elliott. He will have a 2-inch height advantage. It looks like a 4-inch reach advantage. Both southpaws. Obviously, I know nothing about Brandon Raw Dog Royval, so I don't know how this fight's going to go. But as far as betting odds, Tim Elliott's minus 170. Raw Dog is plus 150. And, just looking at those odds, I don't like them. Especially with how Elliott's been performing lately. He's kind of, I like watching him, and I don't like shitting on fighters just because, one, mainly they all kick my ass, and two, they all pretty much put in the work and work harder than anybody I know or So it's very, in my eyes, very disrespectful to talk down on any of these guys, but he's kind of shit the bed this last couple of fights, especially versus guys he, at least on paper, should have beat, or at least by name recognition. Name recognition means nothing once you shut those fucking cages. So we'll see when we get there on Saturday. Far as the next fight, which is the second fight of the night that will be happening on the prelims, it's a bantamweight fight, 135 135ers. It's between Luis the Last Samurai Smoka, and yes, it's not the Last Samurai, it's the Last Samurai, DA. He's 28 years old, and he's currently 2-1 in his second stint with the UFC. He was originally with the UFC. I think he went on a 3 or 4 fight losing streak. They cut him or released him or whatever. I guess it's the same thing, cut or release. But he ended up, I think, going to Titan FC and winning a couple fights there. Might have won the belt. I can't remember correctly. But now he's back with the UFC. He's facing a tough competitor in Casey Kenny. I like Casey Kenny when I've originally seen him fight. He's a legit, in my eyes, he's a legit top 15 guy there at bantamweight. Just bantamweight's kind of crazy without Cejudo and the top guys not fighting and stuff, and now Aldo's in the mix. I mean, but that's all top 5 stuff. Top, you know, 5 to 15 is always kind of debatable. And it's always tough to crack that top 15 in general with so many good fighters there are nowadays. But I think Casey Kenny's talent alone, he's the top 15 guy. And if I had to compare that same analogy to Smoka, I'd say Smoka is probably on the outside of the top 15. I think he could crack the top 15. I just don't think he's there yet. Um, we'll see. He'll get a chance to prove me wrong, but I think Kenny is legit ready right now for top 15 competition. Even though he lost his last fight. And I guess getting more into Kenny, Casey Kenny, he's 29 years old, and as I said, he lost his last fight versus Marab. I hate saying this guy's last name, or trying Dalvishvili. I'm just gonna call him Marab. Lost his last fight versus Marab. But it was a close fight. I remember it being a little controversial, and even Matt Serra, who's in Marab's corner, was like, "Oof, that was a close fight." And that Kenny guy is legit. I remember talking about it on his podcast on UFC Unfiltered. But before he lost the Marab fight, he had a 6-fight win streak before that, including being a former LFA champ. He's 2-1 in the UFC overall, and he's had wins over Ray Borg and Manny Bermudez, two very, very legit guys in the UFC. He was on Dana White's Contender Series Season 1, Week 2, lost that fight, but ended up coming back Season 1, Week 8, and now in the UFC, and in my opinion, could crack the top. I don't know if he'll crack it by getting a win here, cracking the top 15 rankings, but I think obviously they'll put him closer to it. And who knows, if he wins in devastating fashion, then they might. I mean, it's just bullshit journalists. It's people that, with better credentials than me, but less knowledge, less fandom of the sport, that get to make these rankings. And I know that's not down the board. I know there's a lot of good reporters out there and journalists out there for MMA and UFC stuff, but a lot of them are just journalists too that just sit on their ass all day and eat pizza and cookies and chips and soda, and I've never stepped into a training room. Now, I haven't really either. I've just done jiu-jitsu for a little bit, and I haven't done it for months now, so I'm not saying I'm any better, but rankings are made up by people that don't know the sport. That's all I'm saying. Or at least haven't practiced the sport. Or even a facet of the sport, Just get a punching bag and start punching. And you'll see how fucking hard that is. Stephen A. Smith, fucking worst punching technique I've ever seen in my life. Why would you post that shit, bro? Oh, did a comment there? Oh, what's up, Godly? How you doing, son? I'm just talking about some UFC fights. I like to do these little podcasts here and there. Shit I like to talk about. I only got one more fight to talk about. I'll be on 2K later if you're down to play Godly. Appreciate you checking in. As far as the fights itself, it's the last fight and it's the first fight of the prelims coming up this Saturday between Chris El Guapo Gutierrez versus Vince Vendetta Morales. El Guapo is 29 years old, fights out of Factory X Muay Thai there in Inglewood, Colorado. He's currently 2-1 in the UFC. As far as Vince Vendetta Morales, he's also 29 years old, fights out of American Free Fight MMA. He was on Dana White's Contender Series Season 2, Week 5, and lost. He lost versus Domingo Pilarte in that, but ended up working his way back in somehow in the UFC now. And he's 1-2 in the UFC though right now. El Guapo Gutierrez will have a 2-inch height advantage, but Morales will have a 3-inch reach advantage, so that kind of evens it out there. Both guys are orthodox. Honestly, I don't know too much about either of these guys to give like a detailed analysis. Appreciate the sparks, Godly. So we'll see how that fight goes. I honestly don't know. That is a featherweight fight at 145 pounds. Gutierrez is minus 105 betting favorite. Oh, wait, no, he's not. That would make him underdog with Vince Morales at minus 115. So we'll see how those go. What's my time at? I'm at almost 50 minutes here. Keep up the word. Yeah, thanks, Godly. Appreciate it, dude. Maybe I'll check you on some 2K later. Appreciate it. Um, so I guess that's it as far as the fights this weekend. Again, UFC Fight Night, Tyron Woodley versus Gilbert Burns. Prelims starting at 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern. All these fights are on ESPN, ESPN Plus from prelim, the very first prelim fight all the way to the main event. Main card will be on ESPN and ESPN Plus at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. Again, at the UFC Apex, where they do the Contender Series fights and where they'll be filming the newest Ultimate Fighter. They could be filming it now. We don't fucking know. It's always very secretive. Been smart to film it right now. I'm very looking forward to these fights. As far as my favorite fights to watch and look out for, definitely, obviously, Tyron Woodley versus Gilbert Burns. That will be a great fight. I like Black Boy versus Augusto Sakai. Just kind of mashup styles between an Olympic wrestler in Black Boy Ivanoff versus stand-up striking specialist in Augusto Sakai, knockout specialist. But he's Brazilian, so not trying to be racist or countryist, but for the most part, if you're Brazilian, you got to know some Brazilian jiu-jitsu. You got to. Even Edson Barbosa, who's a fucking kickboxer, is like, yeah, I'm still black belt in jiu-jitsu, because he's from Brazil. Even though I don't know Billy Quarantino, I look forward to seeing Spike Alpha Ginger Carlyle fight again. This Roosevelt Roberts versus Brock Weaver fight will be fun. Mackenzie Dern, Hannah Cyphers fight will be fun again because of the matchups. Dern's awesome jiu-jitsu versus Cyphers, basically zombie-like fighting style, just coming head first, not giving a fuck. That'll be interesting. Kaylin Kuchagian, now fighting Valentina's sister after she lost to her, fighting Antonina. That'll be an interesting fight. Don't know either most of these guys. I always like, as I said before, watching Tim Elliott fight. He's got a very unorthodox style. Keeps his hands low. Isn't protecting his face at all. The whole time you're like, dude, put your fucking hands up. But it is what it is. A little skin. Hopefully, maybe he'll, beat this guy that's making his debut. But at the same time, I don't want to root against a guy making his debut and like, hey, I'm rooting for you to get a loss, in the biggest stage of your career. That's not cool. Somebody's got to win though. So, and then this Luis Smoke Case of Candy fight. That's got to be my favorite fight in the prelims for sure. And like I said, I think Kenny's legit. I think he's top 15 guy. So I definitely look forward to seeing him put in a good performance. That's really it. I may or may not have a review of these fights, depending on how good the card is. But because we have UFC 250 coming up the next weekend, I'll tell you what I will do. I'm gonna have a preview episode for 250 because it's a pay-per-view and the card is looking pretty good. It's not the main event's kind of same with co-main, but there's still exciting fights. So I'll have a preview episode next week for UFC 250, and within that preview episode, I'll kind of talk about these fights coming up this Saturday between Woodley and Burns and that whole card. I'll just briefly talk about what stands out, and I'll talk about the main event, obviously, and any exciting finishes. I'll probably touch briefly on those, about 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes, depending. And then go into the preview for UFC 250. And then after these fights, UFC 250, after June 6th, I'll have a review podcast for sure. Maybe with friends, maybe not. We'll see. But just to close it out, I just want to kind of look at this 250 card. It was just released pretty much today, I believe. And finalized. This will also take place in UFC Apex in Las Vegas there, June 6th. Main event between Amanda the Lioness Nunes and Felicia Spencer. Kind of lopsided there. Definitely think Nunes will get the nod, most definitely. Rafael Sansao versus Cody Garbrandt. That's a great fucking fight. Garbrandt on a huge skid. Seems anytime he gets clipped at all, he sees red and just starts throwing fucking haymakers, and then that's when he gets clipped. Because guys know he's going to do it, and they're like, oh, you're going to throw haymakers? All right, I'm just going to throw them straight down the fucking line, hit you 5 times before you hit me once or at all, and knock your ass out. But nonetheless, a great fight. Talk about great fight. Aljamain Sterling versus Corey Sandhagen. That's a fucking great ass fight. Neil Magny, Anthony Rocco Martin, great ass fight. Eddie Wineland, Sean O'Malley, great fucking fight. But I like O'Malley all day versus the veteran Wineland. Ian Heinisch versus Gerald Mershot, fucking great fight. But I got Ian Heinisch. Charles Bird's fighting. Got Alex Caceres versus Chase Hooper. That's an amazing fight. And Cody Stamann, Brian Keller's amazing fight. Holy shit. Jussier Formiga is fighting. And then you got Alonzo Menfield and Devin Clark as well. Damn. Now that I actually looked at the card and I'm saying out loud, I'm getting excited. Getting excited for those fights, even though the main event will probably suck. But it is what it is. I appreciate the handful of you that hopped in here while I was doing this live. Always appreciate Darius for the lurk in the comments. And shout out to Godly, GAWDL here on the Mixer chat. Hopped in for a little bit and hopped out. Played a little 2K with him yesterday, so appreciate you checking out the pod as well, my friend. You know what? Next time, if I fucking remember, next time I have a podcast, I'm gonna try to lump in the Mixer chat in here on the videos as well. So if you're watching this live, the stream live, I guess if you're watching this Mixer on live, you can see the fucking chat. But if you're watching this later on, on YouTube through the video, you'll get to see what people commented it, so you're not just thinking I'm talking to random people. But as always, appreciate it, guys. Appreciate the love. Can't believe I actually made an hour on these fights. Yeah. Sayonara. Adios. Adios, mis amigos.